It's as good as ours. It's all over for you.
I shall pity not your enemies. I shall heed not their pleas.
Somebody shoot this.
I shall betray not your tenets, nor stray one step from them. Take not your gaze from me. Leave me not without your grace.
I told you he would protect us.
My God, my light, my emperor.
Argenta, the sister of battle and a holy maiden of the Emperor. Argenta is one of your strongest damage companions that can be built into a variety of ways. With the launch of DLC and shotguns now being only 1 AP, a bounty hunter version is just as reliable as an Arch-Militant version. Whilst a heavy gunner version will do the most damage, an area version will be slightly better for crowd clearing and area clearing depending on how you build her soldier heroics. Both cases, you will use shotguns and or another form of area attack, as well as burst fire. The build that I'm going to look into for the majority of this video is going to be a heavy gunner variant, but I will save some room for the area version at the end with a bounty hunter build. Argenta is a soldier, so this means we get run and gun, which allows us to have a second attack. This attack will be with some slightly lowered stats because we get the winded condition. This gives us a -10 to ballistic skill until we get enough kills to use Revel and Slaughter. Rank 2 we have Demolition because this is what comes pre-built as Argenta's hoarding rank 2. Rank 3 we get the Revel and Slaughter ability. Once we have killed 3 enemies, we get access to Revel and Slaughter. This gives us 10 ballistic skill, 5 + 2 times agility bonus critical damage, and agility bonus critical hit chance. This also stacks up to quite a few times. This is going to be what we're going to be focusing a lot on, and it is a very useful ability. Rank 4, we get Firearm Mastery, which is a heroic action that gives us a number of shots equal to the rate of fire. Minimum 2, so if you use this on shotgun, you get 2 free attacks on it. Till the end of the shotgun's turn, their first attack against each new enemy automatically critically hits, and the soldier immediately reloads their current weapon. Normally, I used to take rapid reload here, but because we're going to be focusing more on other weapons, I'm actually taking fired up so we can get the critical damages increases earlier. Rank 5, we start increasing ballistic skill. You'll need to do this to lower her recoil. Her first starting bolt to recoil is actually pretty high, so I highly recommend you immediately drop it for the scrap auto gun, and then upgrade to a las rifle as soon as you can, and then when you get to the first vendor in the bunker on Act 1, then you'll want to pick one of the new bolters from the vendor's shop. We take point blank because we're going to be using a lot of shotguns. This means the area attacks have higher arm penetration and ignore deflection when used against enemies within 3 cells from the soldier. This is very useful. It will apply to flamers, but obviously you need a minimum of 1 cell between you and them. Rank 6, we get some more ballistic skill, and we pick up the ability Rapid Fire. The soldier's next ranged burst attack will have its base rate of fire doubled, but deal 25% less damage. Don't worry, we can lower that with another ability later. Rank 7, we increase agility and we take Stronger Together to give +5 to our companion's agility. This will also increase their turn order and dodge, so it's quite useful. Rank 8, we take Faltering Fire. Rapid Fire no longer reduces our damage. Groovy. We also get more demolitions. We're going to start using this as of rank 10. At rank 9, we take Firearm Mastery 2. Until the end of combat, the soldier's rate of fire is increased by 30%. This is very, very useful. Rank 10, we get Demolition Engineer. The soldier's demolition is used instead of intelligence to determine additional damage dealt with ranged area attacks. Deals 5% more damage for every 10 points in demolition, so this is quite useful to have. We also increase our agility, which will increase our demolitions, which will increase our damage, as well as our initiative and our dodge. Rank 11, we take Concentrated Fire as well as Awareness. There are some gears with Awareness. You can also take Law Imperium instead, because there is Law Imperium gear that Argenta can use. So whichever you need in the party is what you're going to use. Rank 12, we take Strength and Bolt Weapon Expert. The reason we take Strength is because we're going to build into heavy guns, so we do need 1 Strength boost. Bolt Weapon Expert will give us an extra 10% arm penetration to bolt guns, which is more than a 10% damage increase. This is very useful. Rank 13, we get Muzzle Velocity, so the first hit of each range burst area attack deals additional damage equal to the weapon's current rate of fire. Alternatively, you could take enough bullets for everyone here or Rack and Ruin, but I prefer to get Muzzle Velocity first. I also pick up Grenadier because being able to use 0 AP grenades is very useful, and increases attack economy. It's also very useful for armor stripping later when we get ionite grenades. Rank 14, we can take heavy weapon proficiency. At this point, you can equip the stolen auto gun if you want, but I would prefer to use the Ripper at this point instead, and we can upgrade once we have some of our first rank 15 talents for increasing our heavy guns, and we'll also get access to the heavy bolter. I increase awareness again, but like I said, this could be your low awareness. Lastly, we take Firearm Mastery Upgrade 3. Until the end of combat, all of the soldiers' attacks 20% harder to dodge. Until the end of combat, the soldiers' range attacks gain 10% armor penetration. So again, more damage increases. If we weren't going into Arch-Militant, you would want to have the movement upgrade here, so your attacks don't end your movement. But because we're going to be in Arch-Militant, we don't need to worry about that right now. Whilst our Tier 1 gameplay had sort of been moving around clearing areas with shotguns, and then any lined up enemies were taking a burst fire, as we move into Arch-Militant, we start to be able to do a little bit more, but it just enhances our initial game plan. So rank 1, we get versatility, which is every different type of attack, followed by another one, increases our stacks of versatility, which gives us extra ballistic score, and from 4 stacks onwards, we get damage increases. Rank 2, we get Reckless Rush. The Arch-Militant immediately gains 11 MP. If the Arch-Militant has a stack of versatility, they immediately get 3 more stacks until the turn ends. We then take Always Ready, so we always start with 2 stacks. That means Reckless Rush can be used immediately rather than after an attack. We then get the Steady Superiority upgrade. Until the end of combat, the Arch-Militant can make 1 additional attack each turn, including 1 attack on the turn of this heroic act was used. The first attack used after this ability each turn is 0 AP. This does reset with Bounty Hunters, but they will be looking to nerf that most likely. Rank 5, we get an AP increase as well as more ballistic score, and then we get All Out. Whilst the Arch-Militant is under the effect of Reckless Rush, their attacks do not cost MP. One of the best abilities in the game, and we also get some more ballistic skill. Rank 7, we get Wildfire, which will increase our attack economy. You can make an extra attack at the cost of AP, and it is reduced by the more stacks versatility you have. We also pick up Breaking Point, which is going to be our first heavy weapons talent here. So heavy weapons deal 1 and 10% extra damage, as well as ignore 2 deflection. So 10% damage increase and 1 base damage increase. We then get small demolitions, and we get Heavy Gunner. The Arch-Militant's heavy weapon cost now remove 1 AP, so that means your burst fires are going to be 2 again rather than 3. At this point, you can comfortably swap from the Ripper to the stolen autocannon. At rank 9, we get Agility and Overpower. When firing heavy weapons, critical chances increased by ballistic score, critical damage, and increased... so critical hit chances increase, and so is your critical damage. This is going to be reliant to your ballistic score. At this point, if you have the heavy... bolter, you definitely want it equipped. If you had it from rank 8, you'd probably want to equip it there as well. Rank 10, we get Adaptability, which each stack versatility increases critical hit chance. Then we get some demolitions, some more agility, and then we take Steady Superiority Upgrade 4. This means we can use both the Soldier Heroic Act and the Arch-Militant. On this build, you're going to want to use the Soldier one first because of that 30% rate of fire increase. We then get some more awareness and critical versatility, which increases our critical damage based on our stacks of versatility. We then get Perception and Flensing Faith. Flensing Faith at the moment adds willpower damage and arm penetration against Xenos and demons. At the moment, against Xenos, it applies to all damage. This, on the test build, had not been fixed. As long as this is working, this is ideal, and it actually makes the Origin very useful. Without this, the build loses a lot of strength, but it doesn't become unplayable. So yeah, Flensing Faith's a good upgrade. I hope it stays the way it does. Rank 15, we take Devastating Attack. This means that impact damage knocks the target prone, piercing rending damage inflicts bleeding and slowed. So these are quite useful depending on what attack you're going to be using. We then get Breaking Attack, which reduces the enemy's armor and toughness when used with Devastating Attack. We then increase our Perception and Awareness. Rank 18, I like to take Dependable because it increases our armor, but if you want to move up your Arch-Militant talents and take something else here instead, that is perfectly doable, but I like Argenta to be able to take a shot. I then increase her Perception, and at rank 19 I do the same. I've put Solid Projectile Weapon Expert, which gives us 2 extra low-end minimum damage on shotguns. You can choose to take Flame Weapon Expert, so you can do the big wide area flame attacks for 0 AP. You can use either a normal flamer or a heavy flamer. Her Act 5 flamer is very strong, but only for 1 attack, so I've always found shotguns to be more reliable in the current version. Rank 20, we get Steady Upgrade 2. Till the end of combat, every attack grants a stacking 2% bonus to critical hit chance. So this will upgrade our Act 2 sort of game plan, which will allow us to be a much more mobile attacker with both heavy guns and shotguns. And having shotguns is very good because of being able to shoot in melee. I've enjoyed this gameplay a lot more than previously just trying to use flamers. Tier 3 is when we get a lot of our big increases. Your game plan is going to be the same, but just bigger and stronger. Rank 1, we take Eager for Battle. For the first round of combat, we get an extra 2 AP, and then we get Swift Slaughter. This will allow us to use Reveling Slaughter a lot quicker because we get after 2 kills. Ideally, if I could have taken this earlier, this would have been quite useful. It's another thing you could have swapped out Muzzle Velocity for, and you would have been greatly enjoying the build still. Rank 2, we get Demolition and Exploit Weakness. Exploit Weakness, when the Arch-Militant's attacks target have their arm reduced by any effects, you get 10% damage. When they have their deflection reduced by any effects, the Arch-Militant and the Arch-Militant deals +2 damage. So yes, if you've lowered their deflection or their armor, this is quite useful. We then get Ballistic Skill and No Heresy. This gives us 10% critical chance and 10% armor against Xenos enemies. We then take Controlled Shot. This will allow our allies to dodge our burst fires or our area attacks if they're in the way. Rank 5, we get Degraded Defense, the biggest damage increase for the build. What this does is damage increases our next damage up to stacks of 1,000. Divided by 6, that's how much extra base damage we do. So Degraded Defense is a big win. We also get the Contempt for the Weak. The Arch-Militant deals 20% critical damage against targets that are stunned, prone, or blinded. Our Devastating Attack will do that, and will our kicks as soon as we get them. Rank 6, we get Ballistic Skill Integrity. Whilst at full wounds, the soldier has 10 Ballistic Skill and 2 MP. It's important to keep raising our Ballistic Skill because when we equip the Compensated Gloves, we will increase our rate of fire based on our Ballistic Skill, so we want to stack that as much as possible. I then take Kick and Perception. Perception helps us stop enemies dodging. Rank 8, we take Martial Arts, so the kick can knock our enemies prone, and then we take Litany of Purifications. All enemies that are in the area effect of War Hymn or Furious Recital gain 1 stack of the Disturbed effect. Enemies that are adjacent to the Devotee gain 2 stacks of Disturbed. Also, all demons in the area suffer damage equal to momentum restored by the Devotee whilst using this ability. Rank 9, we get Awareness and Vital Points. Vital Points can turn critical hit chance into 50% extra damage, so that's a pretty nice increase. Rank 10, we get some more Awareness, and we also pick up Tenderize. Enemies damaged by the soldier's area attack suffer +5 damage from the next attack that hits them, so this is useful for the first shot of your burst fires or following multiple shotgun shots or flamer attacks. We then increase more Awareness, and then we get Rack and Ruin. After the soldier deals damage to 3 different enemies, the soldier gains Ballistic Score base more damage for their next attack in the current combat. We also upgrade our Medicae a bit because we've maxed out our 2 skills. You'll tend to only do 2 per companion for unfair. Rank 13, we take Preferred Targets. If the Arch-Militant attacks a target that have their dodge reduced by any effects applied by the Arch-Militant or their allies, they get 10% critical hit chance. When the Arch-Militant attacks a target that have their parry reduced by any effects by the Arch-Militant's allies or themselves, they get 20% critical damage. Yeah, if you've used Exposed Weakness on any enemy, this will prime all of your Arch-Militant talents. We then take Perception, Agility, more Medicae, and then we get to Deadly Aim. If the character's dodge reduction is higher than the enemy's dodge before applying the heavy, medium, or light armor penalties, the character increases damage against that enemy by 1% for every 5% difference between the character's dodge reduction and the enemy's dodge. So buffing your Perception is good, and lowering the enemy's dodge and deflection is also good because then you do more damage. We also pick up enough bullets for everyone. The soldier's second attack in the turn deals more damage to enemies that have not suffered damage from the soldier during this turn. So yes, when you change targets, you will do more damage on your second attack. We then get Custom's Glory. When the Arch-Militant or their ally uses Heroic or Desperate Measure, the Arch-Militant gains +1 and 10% damage to all attacks until the end of combat. We then get Medicae and Focal Point. The Arch-Militant deals 15% damage to targets that have priority target regardless of whom that is. We also get Litany of Hatred. The Devotee and their allies in the area of effect of War Hymn receive +2 damage for single shots and attacks opportunity for 1 round. This is going to be more of a buff to your allies than yourself. Rank 18, I take Entrench, because Entrench is very useful in this meta. If you ever get stuck somewhere and you've got AP left but you don't have attacks left, especially if you're using something like Metabolic Overcharge, you can bank that AP to use on your next run and gun. So this is why I like Entrench. It's less of a priority on Argenta because she's not shotgun focused, so less likely to get trapped. I also take an agility increase, and then at rank 19 we get Extermination and Flashfire. Flashfire will lower the cost of AP reduction for Wildfire, which is very good. And Extermination gives us +1 damage base every time we do an attack. And at rank 20, completing the build, we get that AP increase. We're online, improved heavy bolter, compensating gloves, we are mowing things down. Let's talk about these items. As you can see, looking at the build that I have for Argenta this time, I have a lot of ballistic skill. So the reason it's at 100 is because that's giving us an extra 50% rate of fire. As we increase our ballistic skill through buffs or versatility stacks, this will also increase our rate of fire further. This will be going with the improved heavy bolter. The improved heavy bolter at the moment has its rate of fire increased from 6 to 10, and it can go up even further than that the more we put onto it. Each kill will give us +1 rate of fire. More stacks will also give us more rate of fire. So it's a very, very strong weapon with high base damage and high armor penetration. That's going to be another 10 higher than this. Other items that are important for this: tactical backpack gives us +1 rate of fire. At the moment, I'm using the Hellbrute Horn trophy, which goes quite nicely with stripping her armor, because when the wielder's critical damage is increased by reduced armor. So if we are building stacks with dependable, and then we're in a front line, then we use the Hellbrute Horn trophy, we will gain a lot of attack damage. The reason I'm using the Hellbrute Horn trophy and the long range lens and even the Wolftooth necklace is Reckless Fury, Beads of Concentration, and Echo of Victory are actually on other companions. So I had to sort of spread out the gear, but you can look at my previous Argenta build to see what other gear alternatives I had on her. Taking the Gunslinger's helmet is quite important because you do extra damage based on rate of fire. Her 1-star armor upgrade that you get for Act 5, which is whenever the wielder scores a critical hit or kills an enemy, the wearer's damage dealt is increased by 5%. Yeah, that's very goddamn strong, especially on the heavy bolter, because if you're firing 20 plus shots, that's obviously, you're building up that damage very quickly. I've put on the long range end, which increases the effective range of not only the heavy bolter, but also the shotgun. The shotgun, I don't know if it's the best shotgun for her level, but it's just the one I had on at this point in the game. And I'm using the Caligay of St. Keith. Whenever the wearer performs a heroic act or desperate measure, they recover all their wounds and get 2 AP. Useful for increasing our attack economy. We want to attack as much as possible. Iron Eye grenades are very important for this. Tears of Repentance are also good for this. Stims are also very good for this. You want to hit something with your shotgun, and then you want to do a big burst fire. You want to get kills with the burst fires to increase your rate of fire. You'll also want to use a Soldier Heroic Action to increase your rate of fire. By building stacks versatility, we also increase rate of fire. It just keeps buffing everything over and over and over and over. This is a very strong build. It's in fact the strongest range build in the game. The effective range because of the long range lens on both of these have been increased quite dramatically, and shotguns also benefit from knockback damage. It is possible that you can also use late game the heavy flamers, which will actually build up more damage to create defense before you do your burst fire, and also Purging Fury, which is going to be the unique flamer that you find on her. So if you want to use something like Judex or one of the DLC flamers or anything like that, then that is absolutely viable and perfectly doable. There's also new flamers that have been introduced with DLC that also have melees. I didn't actually get a chance to test these very much, but as you can see, they do come with a lot of damage to them and some very interesting effects. So melee attacks from this weapon against burning targets deal the target's burn level more damage. A hybrid flamer and melee chain weapon, thanks to the latter, the wielder can parry with this weapon. So these are actually very strong alternatives to have in your secondary slot, and you can lower the cost of their flamers to just 1 AP. So you can very much put these in your secondary and use it for both melee and fire. Like I said, I didn't test them too much, and a lot of my area items were on my companions. But if you want to be using that, you're going to be able to use that to build it. And because of the Wolftooth necklace, we're actually building weapon skill quite nicely, which will also get buffed by versatility stacks and allies. So these are going to be some very good options for you to have on this build. Now, whilst I refer to my main Argenta build as the Terminator, the alternative build is the Mandalorian setup, which is as a bounty hunter. So this version of the build is very similar, except for that you're going to focus more on solid projectile weapon expert because you're going to be going into shotguns. You could still use flamer secondaries with this, or you can mix and match a different burst weapon. It's going to be up to you. You could even use a sniper and a shotgun and be very effective on this build. The difference is obviously going into Bounty Hunter, we're going to be getting more attack economy with Claim and Maim. Things like Cut to the Chase, Call the Bold, and Pounce will help us with movement as well as getting criticals. But using Hunting Surge in Inspiring Trophy and Critical Chain and things like that is going to really help build this up. I take Entrench earlier on this build because chances of getting trapped are much more likely. And I also use Hot on the Trail so you can get another way to get extra turns. The Bounty Hunter version is very fun. It has very high armor pen and it has good attack economy, and it can help buff your damage if you're killing the right enemies. You just got to make sure that when you finish off a high tier target that you have either enemies within range or a good weapon to be able to then shoot other enemies. We also go more into dash on this rather than focus on the burst fire things, so this is very viable for 1 AP shotguns. And if you do obviously take Flamer Weapon Expert, you can obviously have the 1 AP flamers as well. You could take that at any point really and just move around some of these other litanies, but that's going to be everything I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed playing DLC. This is going to be the end of the prologue companions. We're going to start moving on to the Act 1 companions. By now I've probably even started live streaming. If I haven't, bad me for not doing that, but let me know how you're enjoying the game so far and what version of the build you like the most.